Ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause. And our Bandmaster Bright. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats as we'll be beginning our program shortly. Mahalo. This is the warning. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. We'll now begin today's dedication ceremony. Okay, before we begin, give yourself a round of applause. Brother Long. I told myself I'm not going to cry today, so I had one of my dear friends put on my makeup. I guess this is too much information, but it's the waterproof, you know, because isn't this truly a huge day for our Lahui? Uncle Babes.
I ka halea I ka manawala he mai ko wala na oi o halaulani o hoakalei me he manu e kani nei ki tuagiwi ke kuala no ku umahalei ua ku umahoke e ke i uka ho ia me hoi e laka I kana hele hele I hoa ka anano ia tuagiwi ke kuala no e hoi ngai e ano hai ke aloha ai no ke a kuala I ke ai mai lai pu hani hani ka wahi hina kai luna ka mahu kai o kalu o kai ke I ka vai vai ano ai ke aloha o mai no ke alinu ano ai ke aloha Aloha.
Ava. Keia poia au me oela Keia po ua hoi mai au la he loa ngā hele ma ke ala he lela Uli he wahi ke ala he lela E ala, e ala, e ai I keia poia au me oela Keia po ua hoi mai au la he loa ngā he lela ma ke ala he lela E huli e wahi ma ke ala nila E ala, e ala, e au E mau popo au ai ke ho ila Ka home loko i ua ila he luki mai au ke i aula A ole au e au E ala e au popo ai ke ho ila Ka homi loko i uwaila ke hoi mai au ke hoi nei aula A ole au e au ana hola e ala e ala e a E mau popo he Hawaii au O a ia e kama no tōna motu O tōna na motu e kama e au a ia o te kama 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 I da huli ia o te kama 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 I da huli Hulihia papi o a ilalo I se alo Hulihia chamu O tahana na ia iki o hula hula Kaya kali E ka ukana ki wa o ihu ani ani me ka ulu o ni o lani o la a o te ave ai tu ai a la ahia au ahia e kama no to na motu roto na motu e kama e au ahia o te tama 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 I te uli o te tama 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 I te uli yo Hulihia papi o a ilalo I se alo Hulihia te mu o ka hana hana I a iki o hula hula Kaya kari e da upena o ihu ani ani me da ulu o ni o la ni o la ka o te ave ai tu ai a la ahia na na I ala me da o nu a o da mo
Mahalo to Richard Likeke Bell, or as we all call him, Uncle Babes. I think he's been blowing the conch shell in Waikiki over 60 years. And of course, mahalo from the bottom of my heart to my kumu Ainsley Halemanu, who's always a pillar of strength for me. And I also may add, he's a pillar of strength for the mayor of the city and county of Honolulu. Mahalo kumu, I love you. And mahalo to the members of Napuale o Likolehua. They're kumuhula niuli ihaini. Mayor, I don't know if you remember in when we first came on board in 2013, we had 170th commemoration. And look where we are today, 5 years later. Unbelievable. Mayor, this was the same halau. And at that time, Lena Allah was alive. Performed for us. So that's why it was very important. She also was my kumu at Kamehameha School, along with Robert Casimiro. So, mahalo Allah. We love you. Thank you. And finally, aloha and welcome. My name is Misty Kilai. I'm very proud to be the Executive Director of the Mayor's Office of Culture and the Arts. I am a manawahine, in case you didn't know. And everyone is welcome here. All voices, everyone is welcome here. We are singing the same song, perhaps some of us in different keys, but we are singing the same song. Mahalo for coming today, a most significant day in our Hawaiian history. We know that many of you traveled so far to come from Japan, from Maui, some of you from Haleiwa. That's far too. But again, thank you. Today marks the 175th commemoration of La Ho'iho'i Ea, Sovereignty Restoration Day, which occurred right here. Ew. Our special Thomas Square. In honor of this historic moment, we are here to dedicate a statue of King Kamehameha III. Kamo'i lokomai ka'i. He was the generous king. And now, it is indeed my honor. Please welcome to the podium the 14th Mayor of the City and County of Honolulu, the Honorable Kirk Caldwell.
Good morning and aloha. So I drove up here this morning with my wife in Harrison. Pulled up and saw the fire truck. When fire trucks were just a cart, not pulled by a horse, but by human power. By a fire department started by this man, Kamehameha III. The oldest fire department west of the Mississippi, and there's a lot of aina between the Mississippi and here. Our Ben Franklin. And then I heard the Royal Hawaiian Band. The voice. 175 years it's been playing. Its first time it played was here when the monarchy was restored by Bandmaster Berger. They've been playing ever since. And when no one else wanted them, the city and county of Honolulu said, we'll take them. And we've loved them ever since, and we'll love them forever. They are our voice, as Misty said. You know, the Hawaiians say, and I hear it best from Governor John Waihe, who's here, that we don't own the land. You know, some of us always think we own the land. The land owns us. And we see that demonstrated loud and clear on the Big Island in the Puna District. But they go on to say, if we love the land, it will love us back. And this is about loving the land today. And it ties into a grander vision that this administration has in Kako for the parks, Together for the Parks. It's all about loving the land. How do we do better with what we have that's open for everybody? You know, I think about all the priorities that we have here in the city. And it's all really, at the end of the day, Laurie Kahikina and Ross Sasamore and so many others who are here today, about loving that land, whether it is rail in a smaller footprint and less carbon emissions, or rebuilding our sewers so we don't pollute our aina and live in a more sustainable, resilient manner, or our roads or our buses that will be electric, or our parks. They're all about loving this aina. How do we live better? With 1 million people here now squeezed on one tiny island in the middle of the Pacific, how do we live better and with aloha as more of us arrive? And I believe we can, and this park is about that. You know, some folks said, just leave it alone as it is. That is a voice and something that should be asked. Others said, why are we trying to commercialize this park? And we're not, but it's something that can be raised, and people are fearful of that. Some say, why focus so much on this park and not other parks? We focus on parks around the island. And some say, why $250,000 for a statue of Kamehameha III? Fund that we're so proud of, just like the state of Hawaii has their fund. Because art is about romance and life and poetry. It's about the stuff that makes us who we are and the stories that we tell. Others say, why not a bathroom instead of a statue? We're putting more efforts than ever before in every park around this island. Decades of neglect. But folks, this park is special. You know, some say, well, why not focus on the homeless instead of this park? In this administration, working with Governor Ige and the private sector, are housing more homeless than ever. Yes, we have a huge challenge ahead, but we're not walking away from that. We're looking to house people, and I believe that the point-in-time count reflects that downward trend because we are making a difference. And we're looking at some very innovative ways, like buying tons of buildings, and Sandy Fun is here, and then placing homeless in housing first. Or working with the private sector in Kahoiki Village, which now has 153, basically, women and children living a better life. It's about our Sand Island Navigation Center and so many others. But this park is special. This is Kamehameha III's place at Thomas Square. And it's fitting that it have a statue of Kamehameha III, not Admiral Thomas. He gets the name, but he doesn't get the statue. And here's what's so important. This statue, that phrase and interpretation, explains all that came before and all that will come after. Because history is not static. We see it here in abundance, in this very place. And it's a story that needs to be told, not once, but all the time, for generations to come. And history helps to explain our past, yes, but it helps us to understand our future. We're here today to reflect on the past, but to look at what our future means and where do we go as a people. And I look at the Royal Societies, I look at Kamehameha School trustees. This Mailile came from students of the Kamehameha School. Think how they feel today. And I know she sees it in her legacy, in the children, and this is part of that story. This is a very, very, very special place to be told of who we are as a people and who we will become as a people. And as Misty said, Kamehameha III, for me, I think of he was a man that struggled in a very difficult time between a more traditional monarchy that he came from and a more Western power struggle that was taking place in the Pacific between two great powers, the superpower of that time, Great Britain, and emerging power, the United States. And he fought to keep his kingdom moving forward. He didn't remain static. He fought to keep his kingdom moving forward. Think about it, the time he was struggling, this was the most literate group of people in any kingdom anywhere. Hundreds of newspapers, not just one today. And here's the thing that I find the most incredible about this man. He was willing to share power. There are those who want to consolidate power and not share it and use it for good or maybe bad. But he created a constitutional monarchy when he didn't have to, and he shared power with three branches of government. He created a land system where he shared the lands with others. Yes, he created the fire department, one of the oldest in the nation. He created the Royal Hawaiian Band and so many other things he was the longest serving monarch of the Kamehamehas and the longest serving of the Kingdom of Hawaii. And it's only fitting that this statue standing here has one foot planted firmly on the ground, perhaps in the past, and one foot raised in the direction of the future. Maybe standing on Pohoihoi, some kind of lava rock. And his arm is raised to the flag, the Hawaiian flag, the only flag that will fly here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, forever. By herself, with no others. It was 175 years ago today, July 31st of 1843, that Kamehameha III's monarchy was restored, and the Union Jack was lowered, and the Hawaiian flag was raised again, and it flies here again today. And it was here that Kamehameha III, after the Hawaiian flag was raised, that he rode his horse down King Street to Kaiahau Church. By the way, his dad is on King Street, just a couple blocks down. Father and son linked by one great avenue of connection. And he uttered those words, "Uumau ke ea o ka aina I kapono." And I always thought it meant the life of the land is This happened in my first State of the City. Perpetrated in righteousness. Sorry about that. But I learned since, working with Misty and others, Professor Ogelmeyer, that in the papers of that time, it was interpreted to mean the sovereignty of the kingdom continues because we are righteous. This may cause some controversy. And that is okay, because that's what this park is about, many voices. And it's about history and interpretations and what it means. It's about our ongoing story of our people, all of our people. Whether you got the koko of the Hawaiian blood, or whether you showed up last week, or you're one of the immigrant groups that came to work on the plantations. We're all part of that story today. And I just think, I'm going to end with this, just reading the letters to the editor in the Star Advertiser in the past couple days. One person wrote, "Why Kamehameha III statue? Why not Admiral Thomas? What about the homeless? Why did the mayor give on the world voyage? And now he's giving a statue to Kamehameha III." And then, just in the past couple days, not letters to the editor, but after La Hoi Hoi Ea, a 5 foot by 5 foot by 5 foot, Ahu showed up right over here. That's part of this story. I wish I could do things that fast. I want to plant a tree on the Mauka site for the Prince and Princess of Japan. We got to figure it out. But that is part of this story. And right behind us today, or in front of you, is a Hawaiian flag flying upside down. That is part of the story too. Many voices, maybe singing off the same sheet of music, but in different keys. But what I think is so powerful is that flag is tied on these banyan trees. These trees are a living testament to Princess Kaiulani. These trees, these cuttings for these trees came from Ainahau, her estate in Waikiki. And they were planted there by her father, Archibald Cleghorn, right here. He was the parks commissioner when this park, one of the oldest parks in the United States, was part of the Kingdom of Hawaii. Going to continue to be told here. now and for future generations. And every March 17th, the official birthday of Kamehameha III, they will place lei on his arm, and kids will ask, what is this man about? And the stories will be told. And we'll continue to thrive as a people through these intertwining of stories. With that, I want to thank all of you. I'm sorry if I took a little longer than I should have, but I had a lot to say today. And now I'm going to turn it back to Misty Kalai, the first Native Hawaiian to be the executive director of the Mayor's Culture and the Arts, who, when we asked her to join our team, asked us, all of us in the city, in our cabinet, to help walk in the footsteps of those who walked these lands way before Cook showed up. And I think she's doing a pretty darn good job of making sure we walk in those footprints. Thank you. Love all of you.
Ladies and gentlemen, your mayor, Mayor Kirk Caldwell. Choosing the artist to create the sculpture of King Kamehameha III was no small task. It needed to be done in a transparent, unbiased way. For this, the City and County of Honolulu relied on its Commission on Culture and the Arts. May I have all commissioners present and past please rise. These are members of our Commission on Culture and the Arts, all professionals, experts in their fields they represent: art, crafts, design, urban design, music, multimedia, theater, dance, and literature. All are volunteers and willing and enthusiastically donate their time and expertise. These are the people that choose the art that will stand in Honolulu. They helped us choose the artist. They listened to the olelo, the mo'olelo of this place. And we have so much fun in our commission meetings, don't we? Again, a round of applause for our commissioners. Thank you. And now I'd like to call up the chair of the City and County of Honolulu's Commission on Culture and the Arts, Betty Lou Cam.
Aloha, good morning. It's so wonderful to be here. I'd first like to thank Misty. Misty, thank you for all your work. I'd also like to recognize the Mayor. Thank you, Mayor, for your support of art for our public, for art in public spaces. And without your direction and guidance, opportunities such as the one that we have here today would be lost. Thank you, mahalo. In Richmond, Virginia, in December 2019. And now it's my great honor and privilege to welcome Jay to the podium. I would like you to greet and to get to know Jay, Thomas J. Warren, artist. Thank you.
Aloha. It's so good to see all of you here today. This is a very exciting day for me. And this is a year and a half in the making to complete the statue. And this is the day I always look forward to the most, to see everybody's reaction to the piece. And I hope all of you are happy with it. You know, it isn't about me at all today, though. It's just about honoring this great man, King Kamehameha III. I want to thank the folks at MOCA for honoring me with this commission to create this statue for the Hawaiian people. I will tell you that as a mainlander, I knew very little of Hawaiian history. I remember when I first told my wife, Jan, that I heard about this project, she said to me, Kamehameha III, he was a very handsome man, wasn't he? And so when I was doing my research, which is one of my favorite parts of the whole process, indeed he was a very handsome man. But, what I found was, a man that was so much more than that. And the more I read, the more excited about this project, so I put everything I had into it. It's such an honor to represent him and to commemorate the masterpiece of diplomacy that is Restoration Day. We could use more leaders like this great man today, a man who's wise, kind, compassionate, tolerant, a man of peace, a man so skilled in a single shot. So I just want to say mahalo to Misty and to Tori and all the folks at MOCA for their guidance in this project. And I especially want to thank my friend and colleague, sculptor Kim Duffett, for the delivery of the statue and the installation here in the park. And to bring this size, this beautifully landscaped space without doing any damage to it, it was quite an undertaking, and he did an incredible job. So the thing I most get asked on these things is how long did it take? So as I told you, it took me 1.5 years to do the model and then to enlarge it to 12 feet, have it, they said I have pieces in 20 states across the country. This is the most beautiful spot of any piece I have ever installed. It's amazing. This is for a sculptor like me who does public work, dream come true to have such a beautiful space to have your work displayed in. So that's, if you guys have any questions about the statue later, please come up and talk to me. I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Chair Cam, and our artist, Thomas J. Warren. Woohoo! And can I have all commissioners please come to the front? Mayor Caldwell, and of course, the artist, Mr. Warren, please come to the front now. We're going to unveil, to take off the, yeah, sure. May we have all council members too? Yes, and Kobayashi, council member Kobayashi, Councilmember Anderson, Councilmember Miller, please come up. We're going to unveil the plaque. I mean, we couldn't unveil a 12-foot sculpture, so. And the ceremonial unveiling, please. Mahalo, Chief Neves. Our keynote speaker today is a scholar, an orator, a researcher, a cultural practitioner, and artist. His research focuses on the repository of Hawaiian writings, published and unpublished. This archive illuminates Hawaiian knowledge and historical literacy, re-articulating this knowledge in the present to highlight and empower continuity, informing directions of change. Our speaker has made these writings accessible by reprinting and translating them, as well as making them searchable. He also trains translators and editors so the development of these historical resources can continue into the future. But if you are one of the many thousands of people who have taken a ride on the City and County of Honolulu's award-winning mass transit system, you will know him as the official voice of Next Stop, Ala Moana, the bus. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Dr. Puakea Nogamare.
Aloha and welcome aboard. Alia mai. And I'm gonna have to, yes. Belina ki aloha ya kākoa pauloa, e ka hanohano, me ka haahaa. E ko luna me ko lalo. E ko uka a kai, ko mua a hope, ka hi'ikua me ka hi'ialo, aloha kākou. I am Puakea Nogamare, and I'm all that. And I'm sorry I'll have to rely on my text today because there's too much to say, and I couldn't remember, and there's too many details to get across. Because this isn't a park. This is the park. And so please bear with me as we roll, okay? The historical event we celebrate today happened in 1843. And the park was established 7 years later. The events that inspired it occurred right here, 175 years ago today. This area was called Kulo'okahua, and it was the open, dusty land between the town of Honolulu over there and the cultivated wetlands and royal compounds of Waikiki. The event was a big thing and pivotal in Hawaii's history. But it's the story leading up to that day and the outcomes of that day that make Thomas Square worthy to celebrate. This is not another story about little Hawaii being threatened by big guns, but it's a glimpse into how an emerging nation saw itself in the bigger picture of international relations. It highlights Hawaii's understanding that there was a larger justice than the bully in the bay. So there are three parts to my talk. Sort of the background story, the details of the day, and a little bit of follow-up. Bear with us. What we commemorate today happened during the reign of Kamehameha III. His name and the title given to him are both used, so don't get them confused. Kamehameha means placed in the dark cloud. Kau ikeau uli. You don't have to master it, but don't let it confuse you. Okay. Kamehameha III was only about 12 years old when he took the throne in 1825. So most of the external crises, like demands from irate ship captains, were handled by the Kuhinanui, the regent, or the other powerful chiefs in the king's circle. The Kuhinanui at the time was Kauikeoli's stepmother, Ka'ahumanu, till about 1832, when his half-sister Kina'u took the role. And then by the time this happened here, it was another half-sister aunt, Keikauruohi. She'd been regent for a couple of years already. But a lot had changed since the time that he had taken the throne. Both he and his kingdom had grown up. Kauikeoli was about 30 by the time Lord Paulette arrived in 1843, and he'd been ruling a maturing nation for 18 years. Christianity was widely embraced, education was a national project, and foreign relations and trade had steadily expanded. The native population still continued to diminish, and governance, both internal and external, was an ever-growing concern, while Hawaii moved as a people and a nation into the modern world. Gunship intrusion occurred sporadically and had often embroiled the king and his chiefs. In 1839, a French gunship had demanded $20,000 in hastily borrowed gold, because the kingdom didn't have it, to guarantee their right to sell liquor in Hawaii. But Kauikeaouli was already making moves to radically change his nation and his government. That same year, 1839, he proclaimed a Bill of Rights that extended to every citizen. And the next year, 1840, he established the constitutional monarchy to replace his absolute rule. That sharing of power is huge. These choices were partly to ward off gunship diplomacy. For the king and his country could not so easily be bullied if the king shared control with the legislature of nobles and elected representatives. A constitution and laws could prevail. But experience did warn that captains would be more likely to heed the words of their own leaders than those of a Hawaiian king. So 2 years after that constitutional monarchy was in place, Kauikeaouli prepared to send special emissaries to America, England, and France. They wanted recognition of Hawaii as an independent nation, a peer nation, where treaties guided interactions, not guns. A modern government backed by recognition from the great powers of the world would diffuse attempts by armed captains, which had been in place for 40 years, would give empower to the nation. But the diplomatic envoys, Sir George Simpson, Timoteo Ha'alilio, and William Richards, were still out there negotiating those superpower acknowledgments when trouble erupted at home. The longtime British consul of Honolulu, the ever cantankerous Mr. Charlton, was on his way to Britain, and he stopped in Mexico where he met with Lord George Paulet, a British battleship commander. He complained woefully to Paulet about Hawaii's mistreatment of himself and all British subjects. So Paulet then headed to Hawaii to fix the problem. He wanted to demand special attention for British subjects, particularly Mr. Charlton, whose spurious land claims had tied up the Hawaii courts for years. The drama leading to Thomas Square starts unfolding right there. Because February 1st, 1843, Paulet arrives here in Honolulu on his ship, the Carrisfort, and he demands to see the king. Kauikeaouli is at the capital, which is Lahaina, and so he has his minister, Jared Judd, handle the affair. Paulet refuses to speak to Judd and accuses him of making up the king's response. He will only speak with the king. Days later, after many letters back and forth, by ship, by the way, Lord Paulet sends a list of demands to the king and announced that he will attack the city the following day at 4 p.m. He formally requested of Captain Long, the USS Boston was in harbor, that he not intervene. Kauikeaouli and Kekauluohi, the regent, responded that they would comply under protest, and they sailed to Honolulu. Kauikeaouli met for several days with Lord Paulet and the interim British consul, and he agreed to review Charlton's claims, but he absolutely refused to overrule the courts and to grant all of Paulet's wishes, because they opposed constitutional law. Lord Paulet was unwilling to negotiate. So February 25th, instead of complying with Lord Paulet's illegal demands, Kauikeaouli decided to peacefully surrender the government to the British Crown until Britain could review the setting. He didn't give him what he wanted, he gave him a bigger piece. His offer may have surprised Lord Paulet, but it was a hard yet brilliant political move, relying on a higher level of justice. Reverend Damon in The Friend pointed out that as Kauikeaouli signed the paper of cession, he was, quote, bathed in tears. This was a very difficult thing to do. He also says it was that day the national flag was taken down everywhere and the British flag was raised, and they prepared to make it a British territory. Kauikeaoli made a speech that day to his people to explain the crisis, and that was published later in Kanonanona, thankfully. And he said to his people, "Auhea o koe na ali'i me na kanaka, me na makaina na mai kupuna kāne mai, a me na kanaka o ka aina e. E ho'olohe mai o kou, ke hae aku nei au ia o kou, ua pili ki au no ko ho'opili kia ia mai me ke kumu ole. No laila, ua haawi aku au I ke ea o ka aina o kākou, I lohe o kou. Aka, e mau ana no ko ua li'i ana maluno o kou me ko o kou pono. No ka mea, ke lana nei no ko o manao, e hoi ia mai ana no na e ke ea o ka aina, ke ho'opono ia mai ka uhana ana." And because you might not have all gotten that, a translation is, "Listen, O chiefs, people, and subjects from my grandfather's time, as well as those from other lands. Heed my words. I hereby inform you that I am distressed as a result of predicaments into which I have been drawn without cause, and that therefore I have surrendered the air, the sovereignty of our land. Be it known. But my rule over you and your rights shall continue, for I am hopeful that the air, the sovereignty of the nation, will be restored once my actions have been justified." Those are his words to his people. The nation held its breath, awaiting the outcomes. During the 5 months of Paulette's occupation of Hawaii, he appointed himself and his officers as the head of the government, destroyed all Hawaiian flags, and raised the Union Jack in their places, preparing Hawaii to be a British territory. He cleared the houses off the waterfront land at the wharf that Charlton claimed and took over control of all land transactions. A few months go by. July 26th, Lord Admiral Richard Thomas, Lord Paulette's commander and the highest-ranking officer in the British Pacific Squadron, arrived from Valparaiso, Chile. He was on his ship, the HMS Dublin, and he requested a meeting with Kauikeaoli. He reviewed the situation and decided that Paulette's actions were inappropriate and that the occupation must end. He arranged for a public event to document the restoration of the nation's independence and self-rule. Jared P. Judd gave a speech about 20 years later and gave a blow-by-blow report of what happened on the day. So this is our portal in time. But I want to point out that you cannot see the fort from here. And there was no flagpole. There was nothing to put the flag on. There wasn't a British flag here. There was a dusty plain in the middle of the 2 points. So, but Puawaina had a fort right behind us. So watch that as it works out. He described this in his 1865 speech. Kauikeaoli emerged from the grounds of Kane'ina, where the palace is, on horseback, along with Kekuano'a, Paki, Keoniana, Kanoa, Kivini, and some foreigners, and they rode for Kulo'okahua. Admiral Thomas was already here with his troops and mounted guns and all his grandeur. And also there were the young chiefs and a throng of natives and foreigners awaiting the appearance of the king. When the king arrived, Admiral Thomas approached him holding the Hawaiian flag in his hands. The king and all his people dismounted, and the admiral came to him, opened the flag to the wind, and then gave it to Kauikeaoli's flag bearer. Right then, 21 mounted guns fired a salute to the flag. The British flag atop Puawaina, Punchbowl Crater, was lowered while the Hawaiian flag was drawn up again, whereupon 21 guns of Puawaina sounded. Then the British flag was pulled down at the fort, and the Hawaiian flag was raised there, and the fort fired a 21-gun salute, followed by 21 guns from the ship Carrisford, 21 from the Dublin, 21 from the ship Hazard, and 21 from the American ship Constellation. When that was over, the 21 mounted guns here in the park fired one more salute in honor of the king. The British soldiers stood in a circle, saluting the king, and when that ceremony was done, the king returned to the palace. At 1 o'clock, the king, his soldiers, and a crowd of people all went to the church of Kamehameha and gave thanks to God for his grace in restoring the sovereignty of the nation. At 3 o'clock that day, the king went aboard the ship Dublin to a dinner hosted by the admiral. And when the Carrisford saw the king's flag on the skiffs, a 21-gun salute was fired, followed by 21 guns from the Hazard, then the Dublin, then a 21-gun salute from the Constellation. When the dinner on board ship had finished, the king and his retinue came back ashore, and the Dublin fired another 21-gun salute, followed by the Carrisford, then the Hazard, then the Constellation. A lot of gunfire. The next day at the great feast at Luakaha, thousands, 20,000 people served. Kauikeoli proclaimed July 31st as a holiday for the nation and the people. Ua mau ke ea o ka aina I ka pono. The air, not ea, by the way, the air, the sovereignty or life of the land is perpetuated in righteousness. This maxim, proclaimed in the king's speech at Kamehameha, became an adage for the Hawaiian kingdom and has been adopted as the official motto of the state of Hawaii. 315 gunshots, many speeches, feasts for thousands, and songs. They all celebrated the event which began right here. It was a grand jubilation, and it was celebrated throughout the islands every year until the overthrow in 1893. In more recent years, the restoration of Restoration Day has again become a yearly commemoration. History lives. There are several outcomes, though, of the events that happened right here 175 years ago. The initial outcome, well, Belgium, Britain, France, and the US did grant official recognition of Hawaii as an independent peer nation, the first non-European country to be so recognized ever. That endeavor was already in place. Kauikeoli had sent the emissaries in 1842, but it was still in motion, and the news of the events going on in Hawaii gave impetus to that final success. So I think it's worth looking at as an outcome. An important outcome of La Ho'eho'ea was Kauikeoli and his government initiating the Mahele, which documented title to all lands in the kingdom so future frivolous claims could never occur. That would never happen again. A second outcome of the 1843 events was in January of 1850, the Privy Council approved the establishment of the first park in the Hawaiian Islands, a brand new concept. They named it for Admiral Thomas. Why 7 years later? Well, it turns out that the year before, 1849, there was another international event. A French warship bombs and destroys the fort, and things happen. On the heels of that, the Privy Council doesn't honor that injustice, but chooses to honor a past act of justice. That was really important. So it was laid out in the design of the Union Jack. Thomas Square has been a public park since 1850. It continues to be a memorial to fairness, overcoming force and power. It is often cited that when Queen Liliuokalani relinquished her government to the United States, whose forces backed the 1893 overthrow, her diplomatic model was Kauikeoli's unshaking belief that a larger justice would win over direct military might. The outcomes of the two events were not the same, at least so far, but it is critical that we as a people continue to commemorate the historical models that honor the highest of principles. Thomas Square stands as an elegant example of that kind of model. It gives physical presence to the words of Kauikeoli on that happy day in 1843, Ua mau ke eo ka aina I ka pono. And it reminds us that justice can indeed be more powerful than force and might. The statue of Kauikeoli, Kamehameha III, is unveiled today to honor the boy, the man, the Ali'i, the Mo'i, who ruled his kingdom through 29 turbulent years. It stands here because the events of La Ho'iho'ea embody Kauikeoli's vision of Hawaii in the global world of his time, and give form to how he integrated and adapted the larger systems and values into his venerable society as a developing nation. He fostered literacy, education, equal rights, a constitutional monarchy, national independence, private land ownership, a fire department, and a band. Come on. And he became known by his people as Kamo'i Lokomaikai, the benevolent king. Today we commemorate history and what happened right here, and which shaped Hawaii's past and present, and what we know in the present shapes the future. As part of this celebration, the Hawaiian flag once again flies just as it higher than it did 175 years ago. The statue of Kauikeoli Kamehameha III will remain here as a perpetual tribute to one of Hawaii's great heroes, Kamo'i Lokomaikai, the benevolent king. Mahalo anui.
Mahalo, Dr. Nogomeyer. Everybody, mahalo. It's a different key. And now, please direct your attention behind you to the right. Marching in to conduct today's flag ceremony are the reenactors of the Hawaii Civil War Roundtable, dressed in reproduction uniforms of the Fort of Honolulu. Just as was done 175 years ago, they will lower the Union flag of Great Britain and raise Kahai Hawaii, the Hawaiian flag, and they will present a gun salute. We have to have the gun salute. Just in case, babe.